Hi, I'm Stephanie, and let's talk books. Like, all the books I want to read in 2020. Today I wanted to talk about some of my 2020 reading goals. I just did a video wrapping up how I did on all of my 2019 reading goals, so I thought this would be the perfect time to start talking about my plans for 2020. I have a Goodreads reading goal, as well as a couple of other reading goals that I wanted to set more for myself to help me read more different and just to challenge myself a little bit with the things that I read. I don't know about you guys, but I can tend to read the same sorts of things over and over and over again, and I definitely want to make space in my reading time next year for some new things. So first I'm going to talk through some of my reading goals, and then we are going to pop over and I'm going to show you guys the bullet journal spreads that I set up for my 2020 reading goals in case you guys are also interested in having some bookish bullet journal spreads. I have set a Goodreads goal for 2020, and it is going to be 100 books. Well, I definitely read well over 100 books in 2019. I like to set a Goodreads goal that I feel like is achievable and is not going to be high pressure or discourage me from trying to read longer works or works that might take a little bit more brain power, so I might have to read a little bit more slowly. And I really felt like 100 is a good solid place to start. And you know what? If I read more than 100 books, awesome. But if I only read 100 books, then I will still feel really accomplished in my reading for the year. Now, for 2020, I want to make a point of reading more science fiction works. I do tend to enjoy science fiction when I pick it up, but I usually kind of forget about it and end up getting distracted by all the shiny new fantasy books. So for 2020, I wanted to set a specific number of science fiction books that I wanted to read. And so I started out with the idea of 20, and then I was like, wait, let me actually go back and see how many science fiction books that I read in 2019. And I had read more than 20. So we're going to be setting the goal at 40. And I'm going to be including all varieties of science fiction in that. There are a couple of specific sub-genres of science fiction that I would like to read in 2020. I definitely want to read more of the Star Wars books. Around the time of Rogue One and The Force Awakens, I was pretty up on reading all of the Star Wars novels that were coming out, and I kind of have fallen behind, and I would like to catch up on those. I do tend to enjoy the Star Wars novels. They're not usually a 5-star read for me, but I do love Star Wars, and I am interested in checking out some of the titles that have been published in the last couple of years, and then hopefully some of the new ones that'll be coming out in 2020. So those are more of a sci-fantasy movie spin-off genre, but I definitely want to read some more Star Wars. I'd also like to read some of the Star Wars Legends books. I have read some of them a long time ago when I was in high school. So if you guys have any suggestions of where to start out with some of the better of the Legends novels, go ahead and leave me a suggestion down in the comment section below, because I'm not really sure which ones are good and which ones aren't. I know, just like the new canon novels, it's kind of a mixed bag as far as quality goes. So let me know if you have any recommendations for that. I also want to read some of more hard science fiction. So 2 series that are on my radar are Ender's Game and Dune. I have read the first Dune book, but I never went and kept going with the rest of the series, so that's something that's kind of high on my TBR. And I haven't read any of the Ender's Games books, but I have read other things by Orson Scott Card, and I did enjoy the most recent Ender's Game movie adaptation, so that's another one that I would really like to try this year. And I'm also going to be including science fiction, graphic novels, dystopian things, anything under the broad umbrella of sci-fi is going to count for my 40 science fiction books. As far as big fantasy series, in 2019 I set about tackling the Wheel of Time, and like I mentioned in my 2019 goals wrap-up video, I didn't make it through the entire Wheel of Time. So for 2020, I want to finish the Wheel of Time. I haven't necessarily settled on another big epic fantasy series that I want to commit to, but I do want to give a shot to the A Song of Ice and Fire and at least make it through the first book, A Game of Thrones. I know that is one of the wildly popular epic fantasy series right now, and I definitely want to give it a try. I don't have a lot of experience with grimdark, so I'm going to give myself the option if I read the first one, I'm just like, nah, that's not for me, then I can just move along to something else. But I do at least want to read that first book, and then if I enjoy it, move along through the rest of the series. And my last reading goal has to do with my unread books in my collection. I know a lot of booktubers have a shelf specifically designated to unread books. This is their TBR shelf, just books that they get and they put there until they read them, and they relocate them to their read shelves after they finished. I don't have enough shelf space for that, so all of mine are kind of intermingled. But I also got a lot of new books in the second half of 2019. Many of these books came from a local used bookstore that went out of business this fall, and I got a lot of books super cheap or for free. So one of my goals for 2020 is to read some of these books that I got that I haven't read yet, that I don't know if I like, and I have several of them which are series, which I have quite a few books of the series, and so I want to know, is this something I'm going to enjoy and I want to keep these books on my shelf, or am I going to read the first one and not like it and then just DNF the rest of the series? So what I've done for this readathon to keep track, because I don't have a separate TBR shelf, is I've marked all of the books from my shelves that I haven't read. So any of the ones that have a pink post-it notes are going to be either standalones or the first in the series, and then all the ones with yellow sticky notes are second or later books in the series, and I'm going to have this as a visual reminder on my shelf of what I want to read, and then when I read a book, I can take the sticky note off and I'll keep that in my bullet journal to keep track of what series I've started. And my goal is not to have read all of them, but just to make a dent in some of these unread books that I have on my shelf, because I don't want them to get forgotten and then just sit unread, taking up space when I might not enjoy them. You notice my background has no post-it notes in it because this is my Brandon Sanderson section of the shelf, and I've read all of his books that I have. So let's move on over to the bullet journal, and I will show you guys how I'm going to be tracking all of my goals this year. So here's the start of my 2020 bullet journal spread. I have a nice quote on there from Brandon Sanderson's Star Site with a little Doomslug sticker. I also have my running race times tracker on the facing page, just because it was a nice, conveniently located blank page. And then we move into my book tracker. This way. So I have a nice little graph that I use to track all of the books that I read over the year. So on the y-axis I have the total books read, on the x-axis I have the months of the year, and then on the other y-axis I have the number of books read per month. This yellow line here is my goal of 100 books, and then I have a key, so I will keep track of how many physical books, audiobooks, and graphic novels I read every month. So this is my 2019 spread. You guys can get a better idea of what the graph is going to look like. So the dot line graph here belongs with this axis, so I'm seeing every month the total books that I've read is increasing, and then the bar graph goes with the books read per month. You can see the pink is my hard copy books and the gray is the audiobooks. I didn't track graphic novels this year. That's something I'm going to add for 2020, but you can kind of see along the graph a nice visual representation of what I read when I was reading a lot of physical books, when I was reading a lot of audiobooks, when I was reading a lot, when I wasn't reading a lot, and that is what the finished graph is going to look like. So next to my book tracker, I have my weekly cleaning tracker where I just have all of the tasks that I like to do every week, and then I have a column for each week of the year. This is my sci-fi book reading tracker where I'm didn't want to do anything fancy, but I just have numbers 1 to 40 with kind of a nice, yay, goal bar at every 10 science fiction books, and this way I can easily keep track of which of my reads this year are science fiction. And then I have another quote here, and this is from Skyward. I did kind of a Starsight Skyward inspired color theme for this spread because I just really in that Skyward mode right now with Starsight having just come out. And then the last two spreads I have a series tracker. You can see I have my progress bar for the Wheel of Time on here, and I've also went ahead and filled in a couple of other series that I would like to at least start in 2020, and this is just a nice way to just have progress. I do have a Goodreads shelf where I track all of the series I have in progress, and I just keep the next book or the book I'm currently working on in the series so that I don't forget halfway through a series that I'm reading it, especially if it's a series that's currently being published, and then it's a nice reminder like, oh hey, the next book is coming out pretty soon. And then here is where I'm going to be doing my post-it note book challenge. I've called it the free book readathon since most of the books included have been free. So I went ahead and counted in January of 2020. I'll be starting with 11 pink post-it notes and 46 yellow post-it notes, and then hopefully in December I will have significantly less post-it notes. So when I finish a book, I'm just going to write the name of the book on the post-it note, and then I will be saving it on this page so I can keep track of which of these series did I start and did I check out during the year. I'll show you what my monthly spreads are going to look like. I haven't started my January spread yet, but here's a look at December that I've been doing for the past couple of months. I have a book log where I track which days of the month that I read, and then I have a color code for physical and audiobook. I don't know if I'll be adding graphic novels yet. I am tracking that in my book tracker. I haven't decided if I want to add that to my monthly book log, but you can see I have color coded which days of the month I have read physical and audiobooks, and this is just a nice visual reminder for me that I am reading, and if I haven't been reading, like you can see this weekend I didn't really do a whole lot. Maybe I need to change something up or do something to kind of get my reading groove back. I also always do a TBR page, and this is the last month of the year. I just put books to finish this year, and I just filled in some of the books that I wanted to read. Yeah, no pressure if I don't actually finish this book. So you can see I took one off the list. This one's not finished yet, but this is just a place for me to track and remember what books that I wanted to start. And then I have a finished books of the month tracking page. This one is a little bit more decorated because, you know, it's Christmas and I got a little excited. But I just take for each book and I will put the title, the date I finished the book, the number of stars that I gave a book, and then I'll write just a sentence or two about what I thought about the book. This is a nice quick way for me to jot down my ideas before I have a chance to go back into Goodreads and write a more in-depth review. I did make a point in 2019 to actually write Goodreads reviews for the books that I read, so that even just for me to go back and be like, okay, I gave this book 3 stars, why was it 3 stars? And then I just make a little mark of which ones I read on audiobook and which ones I didn't. And currently I'm at 10 for this month, which is pretty good for me. So that is it for my 2020 reading goals. Please let me know down in the comment section below, what are your 2020 reading goals? Do you have a certain number of books that you want to read? Is there a certain genre you want to try and read more of, or maybe a series you want to start or finish? Until next time, thanks for watching.